Hello everyone, welcome to this video. In this video, let's discuss a poem by Rabindranath Tagore, Where the Mind is Without Fear. Rabindranath Tagore was born in the year 1861. He was a Bengali writer. Actually, he needs no introduction as he was a very popular figure. He was a poet, playwright, composer, philosopher, social reformer, and he was the first Indian writer to receive the Nobel Prize for Literature in the year 1913 for his collection Gitanjali. India's national anthem Jana Gana Mana and also the national anthem of Bangladesh was actually composed by Rabindranath Tagore, and he was the one who founded the world famous institution Vishwabharati University. What makes him stand out as one of the most important Indians of the 20th century is his contribution to Indian education. He not only wrote about the kind of education our children should receive, but also put them into practice by establishing an educational institution at Shantiniketan in Bengal, which is now a central university called the Vishwabharati University. And about his work Gitanjali, it is a collection of poems. It was originally written in Bengali in the year 1910 and was later translated into English by Rabindranath Tagore himself in the year 1912 as Song Offerings. And he received the Nobel Prize for Literature for this work in the year 1913. In the original Bengali collection, there was almost 156 or 157 poems, and in the English Gitanjali or Song Offerings, there were 103 English poems. Where the Mind is Without Fear is the 35th poem of Gitanjali and is one of Tagore's most anthologized poems. In this poem, he expresses his love for his country and prays to the Almighty for its well-being. In his prayer, the poet says that his countrymen should not live in fear anymore and must do away with the evils of society. They must live with respect, dignity, honesty, and perfection. He prays to God for the freedom of his beloved nation. So, moving on to the poem. Where the mind is without fear and the head is held high, where knowledge is free, where the world has not been broken up into fragments by narrow domestic walls, where words come out from the depth of truth, where tireless striving stretches its arms towards perfection, where the clear stream of reason has not lost its way into the dreary desert sand of dead habit, where the mind is led forward by thee into ever-widening thought and action, into that heaven of freedom, my Father, let my country awake. So the first line, where the mind is without fear and the head is held high. This first line itself holds a very significant meaning. Here the poet envisions India as a country where the people's minds are free from fear and they live a dignified life. So maybe here the poet is speaking about the miserable life led by people dominated by the British rulers. So he wants to convey that freedom can be attained only when the mind is fearless and the head is held high with respect and dignity. In the next line, where knowledge is free, the poet says that gaining independence would also give them the freedom to acquire knowledge and also be self-reliant, which was actually restricted during the British rule. Where the world has not been broken up into fragments by narrow domestic walls. So here the poet speaks out about the various evils that crept into the society at that time. The British rulers used the divide and rule policy by creating rivalries among different sections of the society. So here narrow domestic walls, it refers to the walls of religion, race, caste, and creed created by the people. Where words come out from the depth of truth, it implies that the poet envisioned his countrymen to live their lives with honesty and utmost truth. Where tireless striving stretches its arms towards perfection. Here the poet says that one's goal should be to attain perfection. That is, to be an ideal country, and all those years of struggle would finally reach its goal of attaining freedom and perfection. Where the clear stream of reason has not lost its way into the dreary desert sand of dead habit. The poet refers to reason as a clear stream that is pure and not contaminated. So here he is speaking about the thoughts of people, which he says should be clear, noble, honest, and free from all sorts of corruption. Where the mind is led forward by thee into ever-widening thought and action, into that heaven of freedom, my Father, let my country awake. So in the last 3 lines, the poet prays to the Almighty for his guidance and support to attain independence. Here he wishes his countrymen to be led forward by their noble thoughts and actions. So he refers to freedom as a heavenly place and addresses God as Father, asking him to awaken his people and help them reach the glorious place. So in this poem, Tagore actually expresses his sadness over the miserable lives of his countrymen under the British rule, and also the state of his country in their struggle for independence. In this poem, he shows his love for his country and prays to God to help them attain freedom. This poem was actually composed in the early 1900s when India was struggling for independence from the British rule, and it is the poet's prayer to the Almighty, seeking his guidance and support to help the countrymen attain freedom. This poem is actually patriotic in nature, and so here the poet says that gaining independence would also give them the freedom to acquire knowledge and be self-reliant, which was restricted during the British rule.